Used car prices have gone crazy over the last 3 years. I personally look at used cars daily because I do it for fun and I just like buying cars, and I have a pretty good idea of what's going on with the market. In this video, I'm going to be showing you what I've been seeing happen to the used car market so you know what to expect going forward. And then at the end of this video, I'll be looking at used cars that are actually for sale around me so you could get a feel for prices. Back when I started looking at used cars about 10 years ago, it was a totally different game. Cheap beaters existed, cheap project cars existed, and dealers weren't marking up cars well above MSRP like they are today. That market felt normal, and it was so much better for you, the consumer, than what we've been seeing the past few years. That said, I've been seeing signs that we might finally be headed back towards a more normal direction. In this video, I'm going to talk about news articles as well as my own personal experience that shows that we might have a more normal used car market going forward. According to a Yahoo Finance article, in June, used car prices fell 4.2% from the previous month, and used car prices have dropped for the third consecutive month. This means that used car prices might be falling to a more normal level. Let us know down in the comments below if you're seeing prices fall in your area or if this is really just in the news. Personally, I still do have some friends that want new vehicles or want very close to new vehicles, and dealers are still marking them up over MSRP. Most of my friends don't want to pay that, and I really don't blame them. Now, with that said, even though dealers are marking up new and close to new cars, I personally am not looking for cars that new. When I look for cars that get you a lot of value, which means not spending a lot of money, and get something really nice or something that you could have a lot of fun with. My personal favorite cars are Miatas. We got 3 behind us here because these cars are relatively inexpensive and super fun to drive. I'm also a big fan of Volkswagens and other cars like that are really good, comfortable daily drivers that are also on the nicer end. Now, with all of that said, finding a good deal on a used car could still be tricky and could still take some patience. But I've got a way that you could save money right now thanks to Mint Mobile, the partner of today's video. Mint Mobile is currently offering wireless plans starting at just $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any speed, data, or coverage. I personally made the switch to Mint Mobile about 6 months ago, and it's been saving me a ton of money, and the coverage has been very good. The coverage has actually been the best I've ever had at my house here, which is kind of in the middle of nowhere. Saving money with Mint Mobile means I could spend more money on things like car parts and V8 Miatas and things that I really want rather than spending money on a phone bill. If you weren't convinced already, Mint Mobile is currently doing a special that you could get any of their plans for $15 a month. This means you could get their unlimited plan, which is usually only $30 a month, for $15. It only takes about 15 minutes to switch, and then you could be paying only $15 a month for wireless. It really is that easy, and I wouldn't go back. If you want to sign up for Mint Mobile, you could go to the website trymintmobile.com/cash and get signed up today. Now let's get back into the video. Now let's go pull up Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist and take a look at used cars in our area so you could see what they're selling for and what kind of cars you could find if you look in the right places. So here we are on Facebook Marketplace. We're going to take a look at a bunch of vehicles right when I click on the vehicles section, just so you could sort of see what's out there and know what to expect if you haven't used Marketplace before. Let us know down in the comments below if you think the cars I'm clicking on are a really good deal or a really bad deal. Let's get into it here. Alright, so I'm looking through here. We do have a Miata. I'll be clicking on some Miatas soon, but for now let's go with some more regular cars just so you could see what's out there. Here we have a 2014 Volkswagen Jetta with a 1.8 turbo. This car would get pretty good gas mileage, and it is a pretty good commuter car. This car looks like it has a clean title. Sometimes on Facebook Marketplace they specify if it has a clean title. If it doesn't, you should ask, because a rebuilt title could cost more to insure or be harder to insure, and a salvage title often means you won't be able to insure it until you get it officially inspected. So this car, I mean, it shows some signs of wear. It's got some little bumps there on the rear bumper, but overall it looks relatively clean for about $7,000. This seems like it would be a pretty good daily driver for that price. Moving on here, we have a 2017 Ford Explorer. So this is a bit of a newer vehicle. This has 32,000 miles, so it's on the relatively new end compared to something like that Jetta there and some of the other cars we're going to look at. It says this vehicle is paid off. That's another thing to pay attention to. If a vehicle is used and privately owned, there might be a lien on the title, which means you need to pay off the other person's loan before you get it, which could be a little bit more of a hassle if you're buying a car. So this is something good to look for. Again, this vehicle is $23,400 for a 6-year-old vehicle with relatively low miles. Let us know down below what you think of this price here. Next up, we have a car that's near and dear to my heart. This is a black 2-door 2011 Volkswagen Golf. My first car. If you're an OG of the channel, know that I had a 07 Rabbit black just like this for my first car. And this car is $7,500. It's got 89,000 miles. Obviously, in today's day and age, it's on the slightly older end, and there's not a lot of info in the description. There's actually none. So who knows what's wrong with this? That's when you would talk to the owner. But this car in today's day and age doesn't look way overpriced for something with low-ish miles, and in my opinion, these are really sweet cars. I really like them. All right, next up here we have something on the cheaper end. Now, this is the kind of car that I typically would be buying just because I like buying beaters. Again, you get a lot of value if you buy a slightly older car because they're just way cheaper, and you could still get something reliable that's going to last you for a long time. So this here is a 07 Legacy with 120,000 miles, which isn't a ton. The big thing with these is look for rust and see if there's anything totally shot on the car. These do tend to rust out. This one's got a little bit right there, so I'd look under it, look at the subframes, make sure it's all good. But it does say it has newer tires, and it has had the head gaskets done, which is big on Subarus of this era. But this car isn't a ridiculous price. Again, you could probably talk them down a little bit, get it a little bit cheaper than that. But there are deals on cars like this that should be a pretty reliable car if you look it over and don't find anything wrong. And it shouldn't cost you a ton of money to have something that could serve you for a long time. This car here is a car that I actually really wanted to pick up as a daily driver. This is a 2016 Volkswagen Passat R-Line, and this car looks sweet. I love the blue color on it. It says it runs and drives well, and it's a 1.8 turbo. Again, these cars get pretty good gas mileage, and I really wanted this thing. It was only listed for $7,900, which definitely was on the very low end of the market, and just seeing things like this pop up sort of gives me hope for used cars going forward, because again, back in the day, back 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, stuff like this wasn't really happening. So I wanted this car. I missed out because it did sell quick, because this one was even a little bit more underpriced, but just seeing them come up sort of gets me excited for used cars in the future. Next up here we have a 2020 Toyota Tacoma. I will say that trucks like Tacomas tend to hold their value pretty well, so older ones, even older than a 2020, do tend to still be priced relatively high. That's because these are dependable trucks and a lot of people want them. This one, I will say, doesn't have a very long description. Personally, if I see that a person put the time in to write a long description, I'm more inclined to want to message them and go look at that vehicle because they care about selling it. But that doesn't mean it's a bad vehicle if you don't. You could always message them. I would always try to call them and talk to them so you get more of a feel of, again, how a vehicle was used, how it was maintained, and if it's a vehicle that you're going to want to add to your personal life that you're going to use. So let's look through this one here. It looks pretty clean. These aren't like studio level photos, but it doesn't look like a bad truck. $33,000 to me seems like it is a little bit high, but again, I'm more into collector's cars and really high value cars, which for me is slightly older cars that you just get a little bit more out of, even if it doesn't have all of the modern features. So let us know in the comments what you think about this one. And now we'll move into cars that I really know the value of because I've had 6 of them. I look for them every day, and that is the Mazda Miata. All right, so here are a bunch of cars that I have saved. Right now, I always look at Miatas, and I'm also looking at adding a Touareg to my fleet as a daily driver. So we'll go through the Miatas since that's an older classic car that previously prices were super high. A lot of people were buying these during the pandemic because they wanted project cars to buy and work on, and they are just super fun, super high value for the money cars. So let's take a look because the trend has actually been slightly downward on prices on these cars compared to what we were seeing just a few months ago. So to prove that point, this is a $2,200 running and driving 2001 Miata. Now back in the day, these things would have been priced quite a bit higher than that. 2 years ago, a running and driving Miata, even with a mismatched bumper, even though it is aftermarket and not a lot of pictures, I think this easily could have been a $4,000, $5,000 car just because of the demand back then. So again, this car doesn't have a lot of pictures, but it looks to be in relatively good shape. 143,000 miles, although it's higher for some cars, for a Miata really isn't that bad. My Turbo Miata has 217,000 miles on it and it's still running strong. And these cars go for a long time if they're well maintained. So $2,200 Miata, that would not have been seen over the last few years, and I was pretty surprised to see this. And also, this wasn't a one-off. This here is a 1999 special edition Miata. This is the 10th anniversary, which comes in this blue. It has special seats, a 6-speed transmission, and some parts that didn't come on all Miatas of this age. Again, this has 127,000 miles. This mileage on a Miata would not scare me. This thing is hardly broken in if it was well taken care of. And at $5,500, that's a pretty good deal. I've seen a lot of these cars in the $8,500 range and going even higher for lower mileage ones. So this, again, I was sort of surprised to see this come up because it's priced a lot lower than they were even just a few months ago. Next up here, we have a slightly newer Miata. These cars I've seen sort of sell all over the place, but in recent years I've seen a car like this, 138,000 miles, an 07, and this is a manual, selling for around the $8,000 range. This one's $6,000, and again, this did sell quick, but seeing it listed for a price like this sort of is showing me that prices really aren't going to continue the sky-high trend, at least for now. That said, especially with earlier Miatas, they're not making more of them, they are rusting out, and they are frequently breaking and being beat on by people like me who throw turbos on them and go track them for fun. So original Miatas are definitely going to keep holding their value, and I do expect long-term prices to keep going up on them. That said, for ones that aren't absolutely pristine, cars that are being used and things like that, prices are starting to level out and even drop. Alright, so to close off this video, this is the last car that I want to show you guys. This is a 2002 Miata that is pretty optioned out. This car had just over 100,000 miles and was listed for $5,600. Again, this car had a good bit of options. It actually looks like it has this CarPlay radio installed too, which is just a nice little touch, and it looks like a relatively clean Miata. It does say typical Miata rust, and looking at this, it doesn't look nearly as bad as a lot of Miatas that I look at. The rocker area here looks pretty good, the underside of the fender looks pretty good, and on cars like this, you just need to look at frame rails, which are sort of right here behind the fender. It's like the main structure of the car, and these do tend to rot out there. So again, no matter what car you're looking at, look it over well. If you're not sure, have someone come with you that knows a little bit about cars so they can help point you in the right direction, and you'll be able to pick up some really good deals. Alright, so I know that was a lot to take in this video, so I just want to summarize a few of the main points. One is news articles, and what I am personally seeing while looking for cars is indicating that used car prices are going to start falling again, and they're not going to continue to rise like they have been to crazy levels. Also, if you're buying a used car, there are a lot of things that you could do to help save yourself money. Again, look at multiple sources, look over a car, and always try to negotiate that price down. If you want to go ahead and start saving yourself some money right now, you could switch your wireless plan over to Mint Mobile. Again, go to trymintmobile.com/cash to start that right away. With all that said, if you have any questions or comments about used cars, let us know down below. I'm here to answer your comments, and I'm sure that everybody will want to help you out. Don't forget to like this video if you've enjoyed it, subscribe for more, and I hope you stick around for the next one.